Welcome to another edition of the Boston Sports Brew. Bye-bye, Hanley. The Sox surprise free agent signing goes down with the shoulder injury. How long will we wait until the team's home run and RBI leader returns? The Pats are officially off the clock. What do we make of their draft selections, and how difficult is next season's schedule? We'll break it down on this edition of the Boston Sports Brew. It's begun, Mattious. The injury bug is begun.
And of course, it strikes our buddy, Mr. Hanley Ramirez.
Oh, I mean, I've said this since the signing. This is bound to happen. Now, it's day-to-day, left shoulder strain. It shouldn't, supposedly John Farrell, he didn't really say much. He just said they don't know right now about DL time. Hanley even tweeted out that it's a bit sore, but he'll be back soon. Hang in there, Red Sox Nation. But I think that's he's trying to make people feel better right now. And in the end, even if he feels better, until he feels great, he's not going to be back on the field.
I got my nickname for Cy Young Joe. This guy's Mr. Durable, man. It's troublesome, Droz. 2007, he tore his labrum. All right, a couple of years actually, a couple of years after we traded him for Beckett. Gut surgery, arthroscopic surgery. And since then, it's been the same thing, man. 2011, August 2011, injured his shoulder diving for a ball against the Mets. They called that injury day-to-day. It's going to sound very familiar. So listen, 8 days after that, they finally put him on the DL. He goes into a rehab game. He hears a pop in his shoulder, taking swings on deck, pulls himself, and all of a sudden he goes out and goes to see Dr. James Andrews and has more surgery. Okay. Ramirez was quoted saying he finally felt great in 2012, okay? Like a year after. It took him a year after to get that strength back in his shoulder. In 2013, 2014, he's missed over 110 games. I mean, he was out with thumb injuries, left thigh, right shoulder, his eighth rib, left arm, left hand, left leg, right hand, right leg, right abdomen, right elbow. This guy is a freaking mess. All right, he's been on the DL multiple times, abdominal strain, sidelined him 14 games in 2013, a hamstring strain for 28 games, 24 games for a thumb ligament surgery in 2013, 2014. He missed games for a finger injury, thumb. I'm naming every single body part, Droz, and the shoulder. And now last night, he catches a ball and then drops it going into the left field corner. And this is like deja vu all over again. In 2011, he said the same thing. Oh, I'm going to be day-to-day. I'm going to be back. And Look what happened. All right.
It doesn't look good. I think it was hilarious. Gordon Eads from ESPNBoston.com, he wrote a story, and he quoted when Ramirez got hurt in 2011 and had to have surgery on his shoulder. But before they knew that he needed to have surgery, Jack McKeon, then Marlins manager, he's asked if Hanley would be back anytime soon, and he goes, I doubt it, unless I take him to St. Patrick's and get it blessed, put a little holy water on his shoulder or something.
Yeah, they seem optimistic with this. I mean, but I'm not.
They have to. They have to seem optimistic because the fact of the matter is the guy leads the team in home runs. He leads the team in RBIs. He's one of the guys. Not everyone's hitting. Pablo and him are the two that are really hitting the ball right now, and Pedroia. But no one else is actually hitting the ball that well, so they need him to be back. And they know, especially with the way the pitching's going, if they don't spin this well, it's going to be panic all over Yawkey way.
We said this from the beginning, Droz. This guy is going to be out. He's going to miss 30 games at least this year.
I know, exactly. But the thing is, they obviously didn't think that was that big of an issue, even despite all those injuries you just listed that happened in just the past 2 seasons. They didn't seem to think it was a problem.
I guess not. I mean, they signed him to a 4-year deal, like 80 or 88 million, whatever. It's in the
88 million.
88 range. And yeah, I mean, this guy is like the candidate for like operation. Seriously, because I literally mentioned every single part. He could possibly be one of the least durable players in the entire MLB. All right, and it's May 5th, and here we go. Like, the guy's off to a torrid pace. I mean, second behind Nelson Cruz in home runs. He's looked great at the plate. He looks like crap in the field. That's pretty much what we expected with him coming to Fenway Park, learning a new position. It's not easy, but it's the durability factor, and I am not going to be confident hearing these day-to-day things because I just gave our audience exactly what happened in 2011, and I could see the same exact thing happening. And he could go on that rehab while being on the DL for like a couple of weeks and pop his shoulder out. Like, this guy has multiple shoulder injuries. It kind of reminds me, I'm a Providence Friar fan, and Chris Dunn, who's a great player on Providence, had shoulder injuries, and it's just something that, yeah, if you have the same injury to the same area multiple times, it's going to be weaker. So this is like the third or fourth time that he hurt himself. So I'm worried. Everyone should be.
And they should be worried, especially because of how much he's carried this offense and how bad the pitching's been on the Red Sox. But the fact is, even back before he ever had surgeries, they always said he had a funny shoulder. I remember, like, in fantasy drafts and such, you'd be like, well, you got to watch out. Hanley's got a messed up shoulder, but he never went on injured on the DL at that point in time. And then suddenly it was just DL City the first time he went on, and then it just never stopped. And that's what happened with Hanley Ramirez. And, well, his stats actually dropped down to hell, so it did stop for a little bit. And then when he finally started getting things back together, it was DL, you know, and so on. Just never healthy. And so now they have to figure out who's going to come in and replace Hanley in left field. And Tuesday or Monday night, it was Alan Craig, and he really hasn't played much, so I don't know if it's fair to really say much about what his stats are so far this season. I think he's hitting 146 in 20 games this year. You got Daniel Nava. He could maybe come in. He's batting 146 in 17 games. Brock Holt, who's been playing great and played in right field on Monday night, he's hitting 358. And, you know, he played well last season, too. I've never thought he was going to be that great, but he keeps proving me wrong. So maybe he should be out there. Or Rusney Castillo, he's dealing with a shoulder injury himself, and he's down in AAA Pawtucket, but they are paying him a 7-year, $72.5 million, so maybe they should call him up and see what he can do. But someone's going to have to go out there and put up numbers. I mean, the guys that were just named, especially Alan Craig, is capable of putting up big numbers. He's done it before, so maybe he can do it, but I don't know about numbers that Hanley was just putting up, because Hanley was putting up some of the best numbers in the American League.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Droz, he was right behind Nelson Cruz with the home runs. He's got 10, Cruz has 14. And don't forget Jackie Bradley Jr., too. At least he's down in Pawtucket hitting over 300, so he could be a viable candidate, too. And we talked about this at the beginning of the season, and the two guys that were the most worrisome, and look where they are, and they're injured. We got Victorino, who's like 80 years old, and they get Hanley, who's like made out of glass. And here we go, like in May. And not surprised. The most surprising thing to me is how the Red Sox have been playing recently. Since our last show, I mean, losing 4 out of the 5 games, averaging only 2.2 runs at home, giving up 4.8.
They can't average that low run of a. No, they have to score many more runs with that pitching. You're not
going to beat anyone. I don't care if you have great pitching. 2.2 runs, especially at home, is just not good. Obviously, it's terrible. And the only good thing, I'm trying to look at it with glass half full here, is Porcello, Masterson, and Miley all look decent in their starts. And Cy Young Joe was terrible, and I'm going to save Buchholz for a little bit because I want to go off on a tangent with him, because those two guys were completely terrible in their starts. But Porcello, Masterson, and Miley didn't look too bad. It was just the bats in this recent stretch. They've not had timely hits. And Breslow coming in with the Masterson start and giving up a big home run. Excuse me, and a Cy Young Joe start on Sunday Night Baseball, giving up that big home run to Gardner. That just hurt, because later it was a three-run game, and Napoli dropped the bomb to make it that 3-run game, and that Breslow home run at the time, I was like, that's not going to mean anything. And you look back at it, it was maybe it did, and lose the guys who they lost to. It's just looking at that series, it was disappointing. I'm lining up Sabathia against Masterson. Okay, they have the advantage. And then Evaldi against Miley. That's kind of a wash. And then
I would call it a wash.
And then you have Adam Warren, who's a converted reliever, pretty solid reliever.
I don't know.
But I would give us the nod in that. But no, we got swept at home to the Yankees, which they haven't done in, I feel like, since the 70s or 80s, I heard. It was just not a good weekend.
And A-Rod hit his 660, tied Willie Mays.
Oh, that scumbag hit it. Tied Willie Mays. hitting a home run. His first pinch hit home run ever, which I found fascinating. I I did not know that, but
Well, when does he pinch hit?
true.
For that matter.
I guess, but he
You know?
was 1 for 16 draws coming in as a pinch hitter, so I know 16 at bats isn't a lot, but
Well, first off, he let that up to Tazawa. You watch Tazawa Monday night. He's throwing the ball like 80 feet over every batter's head, every single pitch, 95 miles per hour, 4 feet above the strike zone.
Yep.
I don't know what was going on, and so maybe that's going to mess with Tazawa. Hopefully, he just can't figure it. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Just, you know what? Hopefully, it's not too much. Maybe it was just an aberration that he just looked funny on Monday night, but that could sit with you. You know, you let up that home run. And that was a close game. That's why the Red Sox lost that game, too. Not only did that home run tie Willie Mays, but it gave the Yankees the win, essentially.
yeah, if you want to break down that well, first off, Porcello, great outing. I mean, it's not too much to say about that Toronto game. He had a great outing. Uehara came in, struck out the side. He actually had some zip on his fastball. Zip for him is not 84, 85. It's actually 89. All right, so he looked good. The Masterson game, the reliever Lane came in and he blew that game because he gave up the single to Brian McCann. He blew the game, blown hold. If we want to count stats, so the bullpen has been pretty bad. Yeah, because you're right. I mean, Breslow giving up, like I said. You have Tazawa giving up the tie game. So the bullpen has blown 3 games. You could definitely put up a argument that they were the reason why they lost that series against the Yankees, because those weren't games that were like blowouts. They were pretty close.
Look, the Yankees, you can't lose. The Yankees are in first place now. The Red Sox are 4 games behind. Everybody's kind of bunched up in that division. No one's very good. The Red Sox ERA still, even with these decent outings by Miley, Porcello, and Masterson, they still have a 5.73 ERA as a team, which is horrendous. Although, on the bright side, the Blue Jays have a 5.45 ERA as a team, which is pretty ridiculous if there's 2 teams in the same division with such horrendous. These ERAs, like I know it's early in the season, but if you were to go through a full season with these ERAs, both teams would break their franchise records by like almost half a run. So it's ridiculous. And this is the time of year when it's colder, when the pitching should be better because it's harder to hit the ball. So to think that it's that high, that's pretty ridiculous. But the bullpen has not looked great for the Red Sox. You don't want to lose 3 to the Yankees. They played their last 17 games have been against AL East opponents, and they're 6-11. That's troublesome because you got to win in division. And if this division isn't that great, which it appears it's not, then at least win your games in this division, and especially when you're at home. And so right now they got 2 more versus Tampa, then they got 3 on the road versus Toronto, and then they're going to go off on a mini West Coast trip with Oakland and Seattle, and that we know how those go. Those never go well, no matter how good the teams are they play out there.
Yeah, and Cy Young Joe looked like crap. I mean, he's got the stuff, but losing that last game, getting swept by the Yankees, and then just taking 3 games from them was not good. And then we go into Tampa Bay, and Clay Buchholz sucks. All right, I'm going to go off my tangent right now. I'm done with him. I am so sick of him. He's been so up and down since being a Red Sox player. He doesn't have what it takes. His numbers are horrendous. His last 35 starts, he's got an ERA like over 5.5. He comes out saying how he's not getting these breaks and he's inconsistent and he's getting unlucky. No. You know what? You just suck. All right? You're in the last year of your contract. I wouldn't have a problem if the Red Sox just released him. If he keeps pitching like this, go for it. Release him. He's not adding any value to the team whatsoever. He's in his like I said, last year's contract. We're not going to have to eat up any money. Get lost if you keep on doing this. Seriously. I mean, I know we went against Odorizzi, who's, in my opinion, a great young pitcher for Tampa Bay. He's got great statistic. I'm a big fan of him. He beat the Sox already earlier this year at home in Tampa. And then now he goes on the road and beats Buchholz. But I'm so sick of Clay Buchholz. I really am, Droz. I can't take this guy anymore. And I'm fed up. I'm done.
Well, do you think that part of that's because of the high expectations you once had for Clay Buchholz?
I don't know, Droz. I mean, he threw that no-hitter, and I feel like that's the worst possible thing that happened. And then you get him all over the place, dating Playboy models, and I feel like he kind of took, like, that young Boston attitude, like a la Tyler Seguin. I mean, I guess you could say Gronk, but at least Gronk performs in the field. Seguin performs in the field, too. And Buchholz just has not been the same. You got Kevin Millar coming out saying he needs to change the way he's pitching. maybe take a different approach. You got Curt Schilling saying he'll never be the ace. These are guys that know the game of baseball, and them coming out saying it is worrisome. I'm done.
I will agree with you with Schilling. Whenever Schilling says something about pitching, I believe it. There's a lot of things about Schilling a lot of people don't like, including myself. But when it comes down to what he says about pitching, he seems to be spot on every single time.
Curt Schilling is one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to the baseball profession, and I love him on Sunday Night Baseball. I actually been tweeting out to him because I used an article that he put out there dealing with his chewing habit, because it's a problem. I mean, not only in society and baseball, but with the young kids. A lot of my students in school are doing it. So
really,
it's amazing how much kids dip. Seriously. And
I would never have guessed that.
I had to yell at a couple kids today, Droz, because they were dipping, and I mean, it's the same thing as lighting up a cigarette in class, you know? So
they do it in class?
Yeah.
Really?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I just never, maybe because it's cheaper, maybe that's what it is. I have no.
They just don't think it's bad. So I mean, I've been using the Curt Schilling story, and it hit home with some of them, but a couple of them went back to it. They just think they're invincibles. But back to Schilling, he's knowledgeable, and when he comes out and says that, I listen to him, and I'm done. I am totally done with Buchholz. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be spot on with my prediction that was the best start on opening day. He's not going to do any better than that the entire year.
Okay, so I'm going to go into this game. First off, the first inning, and Buchholz's excuses, I didn't hear his excuses. I heard Farrell's excuses for Buchholz and whatnot, saying that, he got unlucky, some freak things happened and whatnot. And I am actually, Steve Buckley came out with an article today on BostonHerald.com and basically said that there shouldn't be excuses made for Buchholz, like you're saying right now.
No, there shouldn't.
And I am going to make excuses for Buchholz.
You are?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I watched that entire game. First off, Hanley, that catch, they need to change the rule book, because Hanley had that catch. And apparently if you would have ran, when he hit the wall, if this was football, that would have been a catch if he hit like the ground afterwards, because he made 3 steps probably 2.5 steps with possession of that ball before hitting the wall.
Isn't football.
That should have been the third out of the inning.
Should be, could be, no. You got to have the ball. You have to have the possession. End of story. He didn't have it. He dropped it.
He had possession.
This
of the ball.
Football, Droz.
Okay, fine, whatever. You take that back. So fine. Then Longoria hits the double, knocks in whoever that Loney. So Loney comes in. The next run should have been an error on Pedroia. What's his face there? De Jesus knocked one right at Pedroia. Pedroia bounced funny, went right through him. He could have had an easy out, been out of the inning, 1 run. That's it. No, that's your second run in that inning. He messed up in the second inning to journeyman 29-year-old. This was horrible. Joey Butler, he threw a changeup. I don't care. There is no excuse for that. That thing just sat there right in the middle of the plate, and Joey Butler just smashed it. This guy that no one knows who in the hell he is.
Exactly.
Smashes it over the monster or into the monster seats. That was inexcusable. But after that, he looked pretty good. He actually, in most of the innings, he was changing speeds nicely. His little curve, slurve, whatever you want to call it, because he doesn't do the 12th to 6th breaking ball anymore, was flying around, working perfectly, striking out guys. I know he got 5 earned runs, but in the final earned run, he didn't even let that one up. That was to Zawa when he came in. Someone got on base. Souza got on base with a hit. They pulled Buchholz, and then Tazawa let up the hit to De Jesus again, who knocked in Steven Souza Jr. But regardless, if you look at Buchholz's stats for the season, and his ERA is ridiculously bad, but 40 strikeouts, only 10 walks. I mean, I'm not, and he's pitched 31 in the 2/3 innings, something like that. I'm not going to go completely down on Buchholz yet. I still think he's not as bad as these stats say, and I don't expect as much out of Buchholz, maybe. So maybe that's what it is. I don't think he's supposed to be that great. I thought yesterday, the first inning, there was some things that went on that just were freaky, fluky, and like Farrell thought. And Joey Butler, there's no excuse for that. No excuse. I'll go on the record with that. But I am not going to say that Clay Buchholz should be dropped. I don't think so. I think he's still a worthwhile pitcher out there. They have the money to keep him in there. It's not like they need to do anything with him. No one's going to take him anyways. Keep Buchholz. I think he's only going to get better.
Hey, I already said my piece. I got nothing else to say about that guy. All I know is that you brought up a good point earlier about the schedule coming up. I mean, you got Porcello and Smiley tonight. I love Drew Smiley. He is a
too.
great pitcher. That's a tough matchup. And then tomorrow you got Masterson going up against Colomé, and then you go on that 11-game road trip. Toronto, at Oakland, at Seattle. Yikes.
Yeah, yikes is right. Any West Coast trip that for whoever's watched baseball their entire lives knows that when the Sox go out to the West Coast, and for that matter, any team that has to go out there, even the Yankees, anybody that's got to go out to the West Coast, it's hell.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I'm not pushing the panic button. I'm not that type of person. 12-14, last place. I will not pitch that panic button. I just have the strong opinion on my buddy who I just talked about. So.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, yeah, you don't like him, and a lot of people agree with you. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people are all ready to dump him out, put him on the streets, release him, do whatever.
Sometimes change is a good thing.
It could be. I don't have as high expectations for Buchholz. I really don't. If he's healthy, he can stay on the field. Just get out there and pitch, and if some of those innings, some of those pitches didn't go the wrong way, then maybe in the next couple outings, his ERA drops. He has better outings, and the Red Sox win some games if they can get their bats going. And once again, even this is the good thing for the Red Sox. The one thing that can be said that's good. While Hanley Ramirez may not come back for a while now, even though he thinks he will or says he will, we still have viable options to fill in at left field. They're so deep with the bats that for now, I still predict more people to get hurt. Like I said before, I think the worst signing in the world was Hanley Ramirez, and I stick by that fully. And I think Pablo Sandoval was just almost as bad. But as long as he's playing, as long as he's out there, he's healthy. I mean, you got him, Alan Craig. I thought that was a horrible trade. But if he can be out there, he should be able to hit. So you got guys that are out there. Like you said, Jackie Bradley Jr., I don't know if he can hit, but at least he can play some spectacular defense. Although I don't know what will happen then where they would shift Mookie. Because then everyone's got it. It's a learning curve for anybody to play left field with the monster. But
I'm not worried about the bats, and I don't think you are too. It's the pitching, man, and a couple positives recently. It's just I want to obviously see more positive. I just don't understand why you like Buchholz as much as you do. The guy he's had 3 seasons where he's pretty much has had full seasons, and he's never gone over 200 innings. I don't see why there's any. I don't know. I know you don't love him, but like we said at the beginning of the year, 3s and 4s. I'm just looking at what he's done recently, and recently goes all the way back to last year, over 34, 35 stats, and it's just been atrocious. There's no other way of looking at it, in my opinion, and you have your opinion, and it is what it is.
Atrocious. Well, I think we'll agree that the Patriots haven't played atrocious the past 15 seasons. And they just had the 2015 NFL draft just wrapped up in Chicago over the weekend. The Patriots, their first pick of the draft, Malcolm Brown, a defensive tackle out of Texas, he fell to them. Now, once again, as I said last week, I am not a college football aficionado, but I have looked at the draft boards, the mock drafts from everybody before the draft, and this Malcolm Brown kid everybody had him a lot higher than the Patriots, going, like 17 or 21 or something, and the Patriots had the 32nd pick in the first round, and he fell to them. They took him, and I like the fact he's a defensive tackle, because once again, that's what I think they need, especially with Will Fork going, and only having really 3 other guys, Saliga, Branch, and that guy from the Titans that came over. So I think it's good to get a defensive tackle. Oh, and Easley, obviously. But I also like the fact that he's thought of to be some, good player from a big school. Played under Charlie Strong, who got rid of a lot of the, I guess you could say the crust, the stuff that he didn't like. I forget how many players he dismissed last season over at Texas in his first year, but it was quite a few. It might have been double digits. And this guy made it through, so that's good. He's married with 2 daughters. One thing I did not like about it was that his quote, "You're about to get the best player you ever drafted," which I don't know if that was him trying to kind of like allude back to Tom Brady and I forget exactly what Brady said to Kraft when he got drafted, but it was something along the lines of that, like, you will not regret this. This will be the best pick you made. I forget what he said exactly, so I don't want to quote Brady on that. So I don't know if he was trying to go allude to that, or if he was actually just saying that. And I don't know how much I really like that, but beyond that, I mean, from everything I hear, this is a great first pick.
Yeah, it was. I didn't stay up because, I mean, 11:30 or 12 by the time they picked. Supposedly they had a trade lined up with the Houston Texans, and people started reporting it out, and they were going to trade the pick, and they didn't trade the pick, and I was just as surprised as you are, because when I was looking at all the mock drafts, this guy was going all over the board before, and like Detroit. I saw Detroit at 23 because losing Ndamukong Suh. Yeah, this is a guy that I would definitely think they would take. I saw him going even higher to like the Browns at 19, but I give this pick a solid A. He's an athletic big man. He's deceptively quick. He's a team leader. He's versatile. He can play DN, D tackle, multiple positions. He's mature. You brought up the point that he's married with two children. He had All-American honors, first team. He's durable. He started every game the last 2 seasons. I like the fact that I saw out there that he volunteers for something called the Adams Angels Cancer for Young Kids. So this guy is exactly what you want to see come into the Patriots. He seems like a perfect fit since the Vince Wilfork era has ended. And I think the Patriots are just as surprised as anybody out there that he was still there. I just don't understand why he dropped down to them at the end of the first round, but I'm glad that happened. You look at his stats; they've gotten better over time. I think he's going to be a great fit. I think he has the possibility of coming out of training camp and being a starter because, like you mentioned, Droz, that position is a little bit thin. So the overall draft, and we can look at a couple other players here, but I mean, the overall draft gave Bill Belichick exactly what he likes. There are going to be so many position battles, and Bill Belichick is probably like so happy and salivating in his mouth because that's what Bill Belichick loves. He loves guys going out there and battling for positions, and you're going to see a lot of that.
Exactly. They took, you could say at times, positions of strength, a lot of defensive ends with Geno Grissom and what's his face there? Trey Flowers out of Arkansas. So they got a couple guys there. They got more offensive guards, Trey Jackson. They center the Shaq Olajuwon Mason, who's named literally after Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon. They got the long snapper Joe Cardona, who apparently Belichick had dinner with before the draft.
Yeah, I don't understand that pick. Why are you picking a long snapper? I mean, it was reported today that they released Tyler Ott, who's the only other long snap guy. So obviously they're gonna take this guy and he's gonna be on the roster. I just don't understand what happens, like military wise. The guy's in the Navy.
Yeah, exactly.
Can he get out of the Navy? Is this a good sign now that they released Tyler Ott today and he's the only long snapper on the roster? I don't know. But they did exactly what I wanted them to do when it comes to beefing up the interior and on the defensive side and the offensive side. I said it last week on our show, and they pretty much went out there and did exactly what I wanted them to do. Grissom has versatility. He's going to be,
and he likes the Bruins.
I was just going to say that. I love hockey. He answered to a reporter. The Bruins are awesome. Chara is a beast. So he's already on my liking list. All right. I see him more taking maybe an Akers role. He's got an NFL body. His arms are long. He can pretty much set the edge. They say he stops the run really well. Okay, so you know how Belichick loves to use multiple guys up front. And with Grissom and then Flowers, another durable guy. He's technically sound. He's not as athletic as most DNs, but he's smart. He can play the outside linebacker. He can play DN. He only missed 1 game in 2 years. He sets the edge against the run. So that's been a problem with the Patriots in recent years, stopping the run. And I feel like they bolt up with these guys. And then you look at the offensive side. I don't understand why Trey Jackson dropped as low as he did.
Yeah, I thought he was supposed to be much
Yeah,
higher. I don't remember where it was on the list, but I remember thinking in the 4th round, I thought he was supposed to definitely be gone by the second day. Yeah, the second day.
Yeah, he's an All-American.
And the Patriots were down there. Dante Scarnecchia went down there and scouted it out for him. It was at Florida State looking at these guys, and I don't know. It just to me maybe it was overvalued on our side because we have Stork.
I don't get it, Droz.
I don't know.
That's a valid point. I mean, he's an aggressive type of player. He played in a pro offense down there, played on the side of Stork. There's been rumors out there that he had a knee issue. Who knows? He tore his ACL in high school, all right, his junior year. The main thing is I've heard that knee issue as a possibility, as well as his weight and conditioning might be an issue. So he's got slow feet. But I look at him, and then I look at Mason, and Mason played at Georgia Tech. We know what Georgia Tech does. They just run. They run that weird offense. So obviously he's going to be way ahead of the game when it comes to run blocking. But this guy, I think, has more versatility where he could possibly line up as a center. And I just feel like both of these guys have a great chance to not only make the roster, but one of them could be started depending on whether or not we re-sign Dan Conley.
Well, the only problem there is Conley usually lines up at left guard, and these guys are apparently right guards. That's where they've always been up on the right side. Or Shaq Elijah Mason, he's a center, I guess, as well. But if when playing guard, he's played right guard. So I don't know if that's going to be a huge issue for either of those guys, considering Klein's been the guy that's been on the right side and Conley's been the guy that's been on the left side. And I don't know, maybe it won't be a problem at all. It might not be. That might just be a formality. And I've never played offensive lineman. So,
oh, really? You and your 145-pound frame?
Yeah, I have absolutely no clue. I don't even on Thanksgiving Day games, I don't play offensive line. I refuse to.
I know. Remember me playing defensive line? I'm an animal out there, but
yeah, you're a crazy man. You're like the Trey Jackson who wants to be the water boy, ripping over people's heads and trying to kill the quarterback.
Yeah, there was some weird quotes coming out. I mean, you got Brown saying I'm the greatest, or I want to be the greatest, and then Grissom loving the Bruins, and the water boy man, and it was interesting some of the comments coming out, but
one guy's legally blind in his right eye.
Yeah,
the outside linebacker out of Mississippi State.
We're gonna get to them. We're gonna get to those last picks, but we skipped over a guy that I just am shaking my head as usual, and you probably are too. Richards out of Stanford. I mean, this is a guy that, once again, a cornerback, second round, Belichick overdrafts him.
Undersized.
Supposedly he is a guru when it comes to intelligence. It's off the chart. He's a character guy, great communicator, team leader, blah, 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 blah. This is football.
They call him Coach Richards.
Yeah, they call him Coach Richards. I mean, Mr. Cato in high school called me Coach Ruo, and look how that turned out. But
come on.
Hard-hitting running back. He lacks the speed and range, not the greatest in coverage, and we're picking this guy. I don't get it, Droz.
Well, he likes that. That's what Belichick likes. He likes these small guys. It amazes you every time you look at it, because even in round 7, Darryl Roberts, he's 5'11". It's all these small guys that they want to take. I don't understand it either. I mean, yes, you could go and say like Bob Sanders from the Colts, who didn't have a very long career because he was hurt all the time because he was so small. But when he did play, he was fantastic as a strong safety. So yeah, you can have strong safeties that do well, but at the same time, I mean, 5'10", it's small, and I know that. Yeah, good. He was a team captain. We had Rodney Harrison over here, and as I think I've said on this show millions of times, when he was out, when he used to play with the Pats, the secondary looked like a whole different beast. It was horrible, pretty much without Rodney. So, and Rodney was a leader, but I don't think Rodney doesn't come across as this kind of leader, like someone that they'd call Coach Harrison. Rodney was more like a crazy man, and he's like, you better do this, and like go crazy on the field. Like off the field, he doesn't come across that way. We even know a guy whose family lived with Rodney Harrison in the same building as him, and they said the guy was the most polite guy in the world. But on the field, how many people said Rodney Harrison was the most, dirty player in the NFL? Yeah. And that doesn't sound like this Jordan Richards kid.
No, it sounds like if he hits someone, he's going to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, I don't know, man. That pick and the long snapper just had me shaking my head. And any other pick, That's fine. And there's people out there saying, "Oh, we're going to go to the Super Bowl this year because anytime Bill Belichick has taken a defensive lineman in the first round, we went to the Super Bowl." That's going all the way back to Seymour Warren. I mean, you saw it with Easley, and we actually went to the Super Bowl and won. So that's a weird stat. I'm not really going to look at that, but the picks from Grissom with Jackson, Flowers, Mason, I like those picks. The Cardona and Richards picks had me shaking my head. I don't know anybody who could back up Belichick because he's been absolutely atrocious when it comes to DBs, especially in that second round. It's like, I don't know what it is. He has a fascination with taking DBs and DBs that should be taken a lot lower, and he picks them earlier. And it's crazy.
You go down the line, you're right. Darius Butler, Tavon Wilson, who's been, a solid special teams contributor, but he never plays. He's a second-round pick. Eugene Wilson.
Razai Dowling.
Yeah, Razai Dowling. I'm sure I don't even have a list in front of me, but yeah, you could go down the line because most of these guys didn't play long at all. They made it. They may have made a season. Maybe they made a couple games, and then you didn't see them.
Yeah.
And every year that seems like he does take a corner or a safety or some kind of defensive back in the second round, and every year the guy doesn't work out. Eugene Wilson was the best one that worked out that was taken in the second round, and he faded away quickly once Rodney Harrison left.
Yeah, if you look at like the top, I'd say 7 picks, those guys actually have a legitimate chance of making the roster. Those last 4 picks with Wells, that speedy linebacker out of Mississippi State, I see him more maybe as a special team. Like you said, he's the 80% blind in one eye. He does have potential coverage ability because he ran like a 4.4, 4.5 40 as a linebacker, which is amazing. And that's a weakness for the Patriots. I'm not going to lie. I mean, besides Collins is the only guy who can cover guys, and even him, running back, is going to probably beat him. And you saw it.
Well, they did in a Super Bowl.
What's that?
Wasn't that him?
Yes.
That was Collins with Marshawn on that little like circle route.
Exactly. So
yeah, so that wasn't good.
That shows you he might. I'm hearing maybe he'll be like the Jonathan Casillas type of replacement. But after that, Derby, the tight end, he's raw. Quarterback, the tight end, linebacker in high school. I see practice squad all over him. Roberts, like you mentioned before, the dude out of Marshall. I guess he's saying how he's friends with Aaron Dobson. Excellent athlete. He another 4.4 in his pro day at Marshall. He's the type of guy that lacks technique, which is why he was drafted so low. But the physical tools are there for him. He could, who knows? He could be a core special teams player. Could be the next Matthew Slater. And then the dude out of Alabama, Dixon, who led the Tide with sacks last year, which I found to be surprising. But he's immature.
They asked him what his strength was. He just goes pass rushing.
Yeah, pass rush. He's immature. He got suspended at the Sugar Bowl. I don't see this guy being anything more than practice squad. So I feel like if you look at the draft, I give the Patriots a solid B. They picked up a lot of potential guys who are going to be part of the future, possible starters immediately with Brown, as well as one of those guys, Jackson or Mason, and you solidified backup spot. So I give them a B, solid.
No, and you know what? I'd agree with you there. My major thing was I didn't want them taking a receiver, which they didn't do, and I wanted them to take a defensive. I wanted interior defensive lineman and interior offensive lineman, which they got. And they got ends, but I feel like Belichick can make good calls usually with ends, linebackers, anything in the front end, the front 7 of the defense. He usually does pretty well with those picks. And once again, he does really well with the offensive line picks. I mean, from the beginning, Dan Copen, the guy Tom Ashworth, was Klecko considered an offensive lineman or a fullback?
He's a fullback.
Yeah, he was the fullback. But every single offensive line, every year they seem to find someone. I mean, even you go last year, Stork. He wasn't a first-round pick. He was, I think, 4th round or something.
All the guys that you mentioned are like 3rd to 5th round picks. You're exactly right. They have a knack. I mean, being busy winning the Super Bowl, they had Scarnecchia go down there and help the squad out even while he retired. And that's one of the best offensive line coaches. So I am expecting, and I do like both of those guys. I really do. With Jackson and Mason. So I'll say it again. Mason I can understand. I mean, playing in a system where you barely pass rush, pass block is just mind-boggling that you have time to like prepared, to be a pro because you go from like running all the time, and then in the NFL it's the opposite, where it's pass happy. But Jackson, I feel like, could have the big upside.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was hilarious when I forget who, one of the coaches at Florida State's like freaked out. It's like, no one but the Patriots know how to use our offensive linemen. None of them. No one uses them right. And you had a little freak out session. But yeah, once again, I think that's good. Trey Jackson, I think, will be a very solid contributor, especially because he played with Brian Stork and Scarnecchia. Anything that Scarnecchia says, I trust. I mean, that guy was around forever, and things always went well with the offensive line with him. So, for the most part, if he says something's good, he puts the thumbs up, his letter of approval, then I'm on board. So I'm on board with Trey Jackson completely. I thought he was going to get picked higher, and I'm glad they were still able to get him in the 4th round, because I honestly didn't think that they would. The more I saw him dropping, I think I remember sitting there on day, 2nd round, just looking at the screen and thinking, like, Trey Jackson, when are they going to take him? Are they going to take him? Or is someone else going to take him? He's still sitting there. They should just take him. I kept saying that to my girlfriend, and they never took him. And then finally, 4th round, he was still there, and they got him. So, fantastic move by the Patriots. I'll give him a B. I never really thought of a grade really for them, but I like the fact that they took defensive players and interior offensive linemen. They got the safety. Like you said, I'm not ecstatic about any kind of defensive backs. I don't trust that, just like I don't trust receivers. But I can deal with that considering everybody else they took, and I think it's good. Now we just got to make sure that Rob Gronkowski does not get on the cover of Madden 2016. That's the next thing. Because if
Droz did his jinxes. Yeah, he's in the Final Four. I saw that. I mean, just to solidify this back on the draft in general, I mean, all right, we go into the draft, we're looking for 4 things, in my opinion. You're looking for linebacker depth, all right, defensive line, offensive line, and cornerback. So coming out of the draft, you address 3 out of the 4 spots. You solidified the interior sides on both sides. You have versatile guys who could possibly be linebacker prospects. Overall, a lot of these guys are versatile. They seem very coachable. They seem very knowledgeable. They seem like a lot of leaders, a lot of captains, a lot of guys with great work ethics. And these are things that you see from Bill Belichick. Now, if you sign Darrelle Revis right now, I'd be sitting here with my legs nice and high, smiling away, because that's the only glaring weakness that I see for the Patriots. And while I was working through my notes this morning, I wrote down, it's in my opinion, the only big need in capital letters I have going into next year are Fletcher, Butler, Arrington, Ryan, and a guy named Alfonso Denard. And then 2 hours later, that last guy on my list is now not in the Patriots anymore.
Yeah, that was messed up.
Little surprised by that, because I liked him. I know you liked him, and
I'm very surprised. Yeah. I'm not even a little. I'm very surprised, especially considering the fact that they don't have corners, that they would get rid of Denard. I have to believe that something was going wrong with him somewhere legally, because I cannot understand. I mean, Belichick is referred to him as Zoe before. I mean, he doesn't call anybody by nicknames. So for him to do that and then now just cut him or release him, whatever, it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't add up to me. Something has to be going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, because I don't think they cut him just because of his play, because of on-field issues. I don't think they cut him because of that. Yeah. There's no way.
I don't get it, man. Me and you are not anywhere as high as we would like to be with connections, and I would love to know why in God's name that happened. But now you look at a cornerback position that you lost the guy that knew the system too already. So I'm shaking my head. I mean, we got the Wolverine who's lacking confidence. You got Kyle Arrington who signed for a while, but he's never going to be anything better than the slot guy. I mean, we saw that. I will just point out that he played his heart off against Reggie Wayne, T.Y. Hilton in that AFC Championship.
And that was very impressive.
It was impressive, but then the next week he got smoked, and I guess we're glad he got smoked, because that led to Malcolm Butler with the interception, and that leads me to Malcolm Butler. Like, how much do they really believe in this guy, Droz? I mean,
apparently somewhat. I mean, the only thing I can say about the Mattious, I was thinking about this as I was walking home from the gym today. The Patriots, a couple times, back in 2004 when Ty Law went down, they brought in Randall Gay. And Randall Gay I mean, at one point they lost both their corners. I forget who else was the corner that year, but they ended up with Randall Gay and Earthwind Moreland at one point. But Gay is the one that actually stayed and played, and he helped them get to the Super Bowl, and they won that Super Bowl against Philly. He did not play very well in that Super Bowl. He got burnt by Terrell Owens many times. But he played pretty well, and he was a guy that they picked up in the middle of the season. So that's one guy. And then you can go just even a couple years ago with the trade for Aqib Talib. I mean, that we didn't know was coming. Tampa went down on him, didn't like it, and next thing you know, Talib's with the Pats, and he was great.
Yeah.
So maybe there's still time that something could happen, something could develop. I think maybe in the middle of the season, I feel like Belichick does a better job once he actually sees maybe even these young guys get to play a little, even in the preseason games. In an NFL setting instead of in a college setting, he gets a good grip on players, a much better grip than he has on when they're in college. So he'll figure out what corners he likes probably throughout the preseason, and then he'll be waiting for someone to release one of those guys that's on the practice squad, bring him in, and next thing you know, that's your Randall Gay or whatnot.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they went into the season next year with exactly what they have right now. I think, if anything, it's going to be a veteran or someone that doesn't make their team, and they bring them in, and that could be a possibility. But the fact of the matter is we have a very questionable group of cornerbacks, and Rodney Harrison is not Devin McCourty is good, but he's not in the caliber of conversation, in my opinion, as Rodney Harrison. And Rodney Harrison was... Yeah, Rodney Harrison was the guy that you could have that great guy back there backing up those below average cornerbacks that you mentioned before, winning the Super Bowl. And with McCourty, I just don't know, man. I really don't.
Well, McCourty can help, but we all have to remember that McCourty was a corner coming into the league, and he made the Pro Bowl as a cornerback, not as a safety. They had to move him because he was pitiful the second year as a corner. He was pitiful.
Yeah.
I thought part of that was because he got picked as a Pro Bowler in his first year, and I hate that when rookies get picked as a Pro Bowler in their first year. But he was pitiful, and then he slowly came back when they put him at safety, and he was the kick returner, and he made plays in both on special teams and over as a safety, and he's kind of found a home. But when his second season in the league was nothing short of horrible.
Oh, I mean, you're not going to get any argument with me out of that. And he lost his confidence. And the good part about him is he's a smart dude, and he adapted to a new position. He is a Pro Bowler at that position, and I am glad that they did re-sign him, because without him, I don't even know what I would say with that secondary right now. It was good to see Pat Chung come back and play one of his best seasons ever as a pro, in my opinion. And gaining back that starting job, but it's still going to be a fight with Harmon, and now we have Richard. It's going to be interesting to see the training camp what happens. Well,
none of those guys can move over.
No,
none of those safeties can move over either to corner. It's not, sometimes you find corners to move to safety. You never really find safeties to move to corner, and you're definitely not going to find it here because Chung is not someone that can do it. I highly doubt they're going to do that to McCourty, considering he's been playing Pro Bowl caliber.
They're all too slow.
Yeah, I just don't see it. So that means you're stuck with Bradley Fletcher at this point and Kyle Arrington, Malcolm Butler, or Logan Ryan. And Logan Ryan has potential, but Logan Ryan loses his confidence way too easy.
Yep.
And that's the problem with him. He needs to stay at a consistent level. I don't know who's back there. Is McCourty the type of guy that can stand out there back in the defensive backfield and up Logan Ryan's confidence when it goes down?
I feel like he's one of those leaders that's like quiet, like I'll lead the way, I'll communicate, but I won't be like the rah-rah type of Rodney Harrison type where I'll get in your face. I have the demeanor that you better do what you're going to do, or else I don't know, man. It's a tough question to answer. And that's the only glaring weakness that I still see from the Patriots going into the next season. But I'll reiterate from what I said about 5 minutes ago, I'll be surprised if this is what they have going into the year. You made valid points earlier about Aqib Talib, for example, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, they get someone off that list, guys who get cut, or if they get a guy via trade. And the last shocking thing that happened out of the draft. Actually, I'm going to let you take a guess. What was the last shocking thing that
happened out of
that Patriots normally do with the draft?
What they normally? Oh, what, the trade?
Well, besides trading, which I guess they were close, who do they normally take? What type of players?
What type of players do they normally take with? A tight end?
Oh, from where?
Rutgers!
No Rutgers,
Yeah,
guys! Finally!
There was no Rutgers. Well, by now, Greg Schiano's imprints, footprints, whatever the hell you want to, handprints are all off that program. He's been far removed, and I don't think that they have those players. And I think that's why, maybe also because Belichick. No, I would say that's the main reason. Schiano, he has so much respect for Schiano that's why they always took Rutgers players. And now that Schiano's been gone for so long, I think that might be why maybe we won't be seeing Rutgers players anymore in Foxborough.
I totally agree, but that was one of the most surprising things, besides the pick of Richards and Cardona. But hey, I thought overall solid draft. I mean, I'm not going to rush to the NFL season because that means that summer's gone, so we can go nice and slow now. Everybody can get back into the groove, get working out again, and stay off the cover, Gronk.
Yeah, stay off that cover, whatever happens. And I looked at the Final Four there. I think it was Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., and I forget who the other one was. Whatever happens, Gronk, do not go on that cover. I heard he's trying to do creative things to get on it, but you already have an injury history, and going on that cover can only make it worse. And whoever the the other three guys were that were up against him, the only one that I could even see having a chance getting on that cover over Gronk, because I feel like Madden's going to want Gronk. He's just a funny guy. He's marketable.
Coming off the Super Bowl.
Is Odell Beckham Jr. because of that one-handed catch, and he got a lot of publicity. I don't see Antonio Brown getting put on that cover.
Patrick Peterson is the other guy. Yeah, put Odell Beckham, curse the New York Giants, and
yes.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, they cursed us before. So we kind of wanted to break down the Patriots schedule. I know it came out a couple weeks ago, but we haven't looked at it yet. And we had the playoffs with the Celtics or the Bruins at least trying to make it to the playoffs. But now, since we don't have much going on, the Bruins are still looking for a general manager to replace Peter Chiarelli, and the Celtics are out. We figure we'll look at the Patriots' schedule this season, which, Mattious, when I look at it, my first look was that it looked scary as hell. Because my first look, not necessarily at the schedule, when I saw the teams they had that they were playing and where they were playing them. Because the only team that they were playing at home that I thought that was, besides the division teams, that was really that good was Pittsburgh. And that's the first game. Well, now we know it's the first game of the season, Thursday night. And that's actually an advantage of the Patriots. One, because it's at home and it's the beginning of the season and it's Thursday night. And two, because Le'Veon Bell is not going to be playing because he's suspended. But the further I go through this schedule, the more I'm actually, at least the first 10, I'll say the first 9 weeks, I like it. I like the schedule for the Pats.
Yeah.
The end of it, I think, is scary. But I think the beginning works out as well as it could with the teams they have to play.
Yeah, overall, I don't think it's that difficult of a schedule. I feel like I'm thinking like a player, because the first thing I do whenever I look at the schedule is I look at the bye. I think the bye is underrated. It's a time to pretty much rest up for that week and then get going for the rest of the season. And it comes the earliest possible week for the Patriots, coming in week 4. So that kind of stinks. I mean, breaking down the schedule quickly, I thought the Steelers were an okay choice for that Thursday night game. And then I started to think about it and look down at the other options, and I think they should have matched up with the division. I think not even fair to give Pittsburgh, because you're right. They're not going to have Le'Veon Bell, who's one of the best running backs in the league. We're not going to have our blunt master.
They both got in trouble together, too.
I'm not surprised. So I guess, I can't even out because Bell is so much better than Blount, but I would have loved to seen Sexy Rexy come back in here at Buffalo, or maybe Revis and the Jets. So looking at that, whatever. I mean, it's opening night.
But that works out well for the Patriots, I think.
Of course it does. And I mean, You go on the road at the Bills in September, which is an advantage Patriots because after that, Buffalo turns into like Iceland. And then you got the Jaguars.
And they get 10 days.
What's that?
And they get 10 days because they're playing the Thursday night game, and it goes into a Sunday game, which is at Buffalo. So they get the 10 days off until they have to play at Buffalo. I think that's an advantage, playing the division team and getting extra time.
Of course
in between weeks.
And
so their road game against one of their division teams, they're going to get extra time, and I think that's a huge advantage, especially because I think the division is going to be much better this
Who do you
season.
normally see in that spot, Droz? Who we always facing in September on the road in the division?
The Jets.
Oh, always Miami.
Miami, no, not always. Last year, Miami was at the end of the season. And Miami was at on the road. Yeah. We played Miami on the road.
Man, I think that's the last game of the season at Miami, January, because they always want to try to screw with us with the temperature. And I was surprised to see that. Oh, nope, not this year. We're actually getting a break going to Buffalo in September. And, I mean, you got Jacksonville. They suck. And you got the bye.
We think so.
The bye to the two toughest portions of this, or the first toughest portion of the schedule.
Well,
where you're going to be. Excuse me?
You'd call this the toughest portion of the schedule, but I don't know if I don't think it is the toughest portion of the schedule because of the bye. I think it would be maybe the two toughest teams on paper, especially because of the road games, but I don't know if I'd call this the toughest part of the schedule based on the fact that they get a bye before the first game coming up against Dallas at Dallas.
Okay, what's the toughest part of the schedule then?
No, the toughest part by far is when they go in at Giants, then Monday night Buffalo, then Sunday night at Denver, then back home Philly. Those four. I don't like that. I think the Giants are going to be much better.
I don't know. I could put an argument that the last four games where you go 3 out of 4 on the road, 2 including the division opponents, could be possibly.
That could be too, but I think both of those are harder than at Dallas, at Indy, just because of the way it works.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, who knows? Who knows? I agree. I think the Giants will improve. I think this is make or break for Eli Manning. If he can't use Odell Beckham and a healthy Victor Cruz, then I don't know, man. It could be time for him to go. Not only him, but Coughlin. And the NFL is brutal. They really are. You only have an X amount of time, so.
But you just did it, Matty. It's the second someone says that's when the Giants win. So, you know.
It's like everyone picking the Yankees for last place. As soon as you think the Yankees suck, here we go.
Yeah, I'm horrified. I am horrified of the Giants now.
Oh, fine. The only time that we could possibly meet them, and we're not going to go over that, but
yeah, well, we'll meet them in Week 10.
I'm not as worried when it comes to the Denver Broncos. I think they're going to take a step back this year. I really do. So I'm not really worried about that. And then the other two games that you mentioned, the Bills, yeah, it's a division game, which are always tough, but that's at home. We dominate at home. And then you got Philly, who could be a possibility, but once again, that's at home too. And you know how the Patriots are at home. They barely ever lose. So overall, I don't think that it's that difficult of a schedule. And off the top of my head, I see the Pats winning the division again.
Yeah, but the problem is, I'm not going to make any predictions. But
not this year, not like last year?
No, I'm not making any predictions. All I know is the division. I'll make this prediction. I think the AFC East is going to be a million times better this year. And you're going to get beat up playing in this division. I mean, the defense on Miami, the Jets, and on Buffalo, all of them are going to have very formidable defenses. And I do not like the fact that you got to play each one of those teams twice in the season. I just think it's asking for trouble, and you got to do it, obviously. So that right there is 6 games that are going to be tough. 6 tough games, which are already tough because they're in division, but now we're talking about 6 good defenses or 3 good defenses 6 times.
Yeah, but they don't.
6 games.
I mean, fine. They did improve on the defensive end, but like, do the New York Jets understand that they need some type of offense? Like, I know they traded for Brandon Marshall, who I think is not the same type of player as he was before, but you got Geno Smith, Ryan Tannehill, and E.J. Manuel, and
I think Tannehill is much better than people think.
I will give you that. I will definitely give you that. I still think that they are our biggest challenge in the division, but I still think that the Patriots are 2 to 3 games ahead of them when it comes to any of these teams. So I'm not worried when it comes to division because they're just too far behind when it comes to the offensive side of the ball.
Oh, well, see, I will agree on that. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that I don't think the Patriots are the better of all 4 teams in the division.
You're predicting they're going to win the division.
I'm just predicting that they're going to get their asses beat up in these games against these defenses, and that can't be good. Even if the Patriots are very resourceful, they figure out how to bring in players even when guys go down and still win games. But I think having to play 6 games against these defenses, these 3 defenses, is going to take a toll on the health of the Patriots. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, at least they're spread out a little bit. You got a couple back-to-backs here and there, but the only ones that would worry me, and who knows, they might not even mean anything, are the last 2 games of the year. So we'll see. I mean, it's exciting to see some of the teams on here. You got Vince Wilfork. We're going to have to go down there and face the Texans, who I think are going to be an improved team.
Yeah, they scare me,
we'll
actually.
See J.J. Watt is an animal, and with Wilfork, and I guess you could compare like Jadeveon Clowney to Ramirez because that guy's always hurt, but the potential's there. If he is healthy, you never know what you're going to get out of that guy. And just some of the teams coming in, though, they just don't. Jaguars, they don't scare me. Redskins, Titans.
They have too many problems with
Titans,
Washington.
So there are some cupcakes in the schedule, and it's not always like that.
Yeah, but see, I can't predict cupcakes at this time of year because I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't care. You have to, dude. How can you not call Jackson, especially home games? All right, I'll give the argument that any NFL road game is difficult, and it is. I'm sorry, NFL road games are no joke. You win a road game in the NFL, you see Belichick all the time. He's happy because it is really difficult. Yeah. Not only on the road, but in general to win a game in the NFL, it is unbelievably difficult. But teams like that, I mean, yeah, Mariota will have time, so we face it at the end of the year, but there's just that team is filled with holes, and Jacksonville early, and Washington, who the heck knows will be the quarterback halfway through the year. I call them cupcakes. You can take your opinion, but I'm going to call them cupcakes.
Yeah, my whole problem is the last time I thought there was a team that had a rookie quarterback and had no chance because they would go up. I remember one week I bet against one of my buddies Forget. I bet against him because it was Parcells and the Cowboys versus the Pittsburgh Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger. I was like, there's no way a Parcells defense will lose to a team with a rookie quarterback. And sure enough, they won. The Roethlisberger never fell down, and that was also the year that they only lost 1 game all year. They crushed the Patriots in a game. So I'm not saying anything about any team with any rookie quarterbacks ever again because I don't know what will happen. I don't know.
You made one incorrect.
Yes, and then the other incorrect pick was when I said Eli Manning could do nothing, and then they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I am going nowhere near any of this.
I never said Eli Manning could never do anything. I don't know about that, but.
Well, I did.
Okay.
And then he did something against the Patriots.
I think the toughest game on this schedule, just because they are probably fed up losing to us, is going to be that back-to-back game when we go into the Indianapolis Colts Stadium, which I know we beat twice last year. I understand that. But I really feel like that game is going to be an absolute dogfight. And I think out of all the games, I think that's going to be the toughest one, followed by number 2 at the Giants.
Luck will get better, but the fact of the matter is they do not have a running back still. Frank Gore is not the answer. Very bad move by the Colts. Very, very, very bad move by the Colts. I'm actually stunned that they made that move.
All right, Droz. I mean, that's fine. You can say that about Frank Gore, but I actually think that the move was a good move. I mean, running backs don't last long in this league, but Frank Gore is a pretty durable running back. He has played in every single game the last 4 years, so it's not a run league anymore. But getting a guy like that who pretty much has averaged 4.5 yards per average on his career isn't that bad of a move for me. And it's still going to be a passing game. Luck is still going to put up the numbers. Another year, learning that system, knowing what's going on. You bring in Andre Johnson too. I see scary matchups now that we don't have Revis and Browner anymore. But hey, you never know, man. It's going to be an exciting season, like it always is.
No, it will be, and it'll be about another 4 4 months from now
Let's go
until we get to see game one.
Nice and slow, too. Nice and slow. Let's not rush to it.
Yeah, we don't need to rush. We'll enjoy this wonderful Red Sox team as long as they stay healthy.
I said sarcasm or not?
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening or tuning in to another edition of the Boston Sports Brew. Keep checking us out on Facebook. It's been great with that, as always. The likes, we appreciate it. Also, check us out on Twitter at BOS Sports Brew, at BOS Sports Brew. For Mattious, I'm Droz. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Boston Sports Brew.